everybody. It's Dave of the Two Old Bucks back at you with
Dale.
Dale.
The other old
Dale,
buck.
the other old buck. So
Yeah.
it's 2021. Welcome to 2021. This will be our second episode of 2021, season 2. We're just rolling right along.
Season 2.
So I want to give you a quick heads up here. There will be a little bit of explicit language.
You mean like an Anglo-Saxon banality, a descriptive Anglo-Saxon banality, a common descriptive.
If I knew what that meant, I would say yes, but I'm going to have to take your word for it. But first. Yeah, that was just to warn, just in case anybody's some sensitive ears or youngsters listening.
Yeah.
It's necessary for the story.
Necessary. Appropriate for the story.
Appropriate. Okay.
In context.
Yeah, speaking of context, things that make you go, Dale, you've been talking a little bit about books, and you've done some book reviews. I'm heartened to see that a couple of our listeners have written back and say, "Hey, I bought this book that you guys talked about, or I bought that book."
I do lousy book reviews, but
they are kind of bad. But
okay, this isn't. Dave, it's not so much a book review, but again, our program is
they're not bad. I'm sorry.
Our program is based on friendship, long-term friendship, and how that interplays. And this is how it interplays with book. I called it a book buddy. Everybody needs a book buddy.
Would that be me?
That would be you.
Or could it be? It could be me, I guess.
You actually are.
Okay.
You actually are my book buddy.
I'm honored. One of them, I'm guessing.
Yeah, you can have many, but you need at least one. And the story I want to tell is about a book that was in a communal library that, I don't know, I must have looked at it half a dozen times. I don't even know why I picked it up. It's like an act of desperation. I just grabbed it off the shelf, and I picked it up, and I started to read it. And it was by Marcus Zusak, and it was called I Am the Messenger.
I Am the Messenger.
Yeah, you remember that.
I remember that.
Okay, now.
Yeah, so this is a good story. Not yet.
Well, you and I were on a mission. We were on a mission, on a road trip, on a specific mission, and I brought that book along with me.
This was a cross-country road trip, north to south.
It's a long road trip. We were on a mission. So I brought this book with me, and I brought it with me because I was fascinated by the way it was made. And you're looking at me, made. It wasn't so much the story itself, which was interesting, different. It was how the book was made. There was lots of blank pages, sometimes only 2 or 3 lines on a page. I said, man, if I could write a book that we only had to put a few lines here and there and still get it published, I said, that's a kind of a fascinating thing. So you have this thick book in your hand, and it doesn't have really a lot of words in it. So I wanted to show it to you because you write things. And I said, look how you can write like this. So anyhow, at the end of our road trip, I was plodding through this book. And I just really couldn't finish it. I mean, I probably still had a quarter of it to do, and I just couldn't finish it. So I was with you, and I said, do you have any books I can read? And you said, here's what the book buddy part comes in. You said, yes, I think you may like this. This was called The Garden of the Beast by Erik Larsen, right?
Right. Oh, right. Yeah.
I said, what's that about? So anyhow, that was a big, heavy, thick book, and I picked it up, and I said, boy, this is really interesting. So I laid my book down in your house.
You left it in the bathroom.
I left it someplace. I don't know where I left it. I don't know where it was. I thought it was on the table somewhere. I said, well, maybe he'll read it.
It wasn't in the bathroom, no.
And forgot all about it because the Larsen book was really, really quite interesting. I took that with me. I read it all the way through, and I read several books by him since then. So then what happens? Out of the blue, you called me.
Oh, yeah. I said, wow, this was a great book. And you said, wow, you must have liked it better than I did.
Yeah, I was surprised.
Okay, so I'm picking up this story now. I know where we're going here. Go ahead.
So I'm really surprised that you said that. You know, you gave me one from your your little book collection there, and I said, boy, this is interesting. I never would have picked that up otherwise. So we're thinking, in the same zone, maybe, I don't know, same genre, because that book is more historical, it's a sort of historical reference.
Right.
So you call me up and say, I like this other one by Zusak. I said, oh yeah. Then you said to me, you got to read this. And
you got to read this book.
What was that book?
The Book Thief.
The Book Thief.
Yeah. What
The
a great
Book
book that was.
What
My
a
gosh.
great book that was. And this is why I'm saying, books are fascinating. Everybody's got their own styles. But sometimes you need a book buddy. Just somebody who maybe goes in a different direction. Somebody, you even said you picked it up in a library. You said you just happened to pick it up because you wanted to.
Yeah, because I liked the book that I read, I'm the Messenger, and I thought, see what else this guy has done.
And I didn't even think of doing that because I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And actually, I went out and bought that book. I actually bought it because I could have probably gotten it from the library, but I said, let me. So I read that book, and I'm telling you, and that was definitely one of my favorite all-time books. So the point is, a book buddy is somebody you trust to even refer you to a book. It's not always 100% guarantee, but if you have someone, then you read a book that you can talk to about it, it just seems like it's more fulfilling to say, man, I discovered this great book. You may like it.
Share it with somebody. Sure,
yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely. So it's if you're gonna read and want to really expand your reading genres, I should say, then get yourself a good book buddy, and you guys read a whole bunch of stuff, and you talk to one another, and you share books, and a lot of people out there have got to jump on that. I mean, they got to see the benefits of that, maybe even more so than you and I. And we go back a long way.
1,000 years, yeah.
So that's my story
right.
about
Yeah,
friendship.
That's good. That's a good point. Go ahead. Yeah.
That's my story about friendship. And if you're lucky enough to have a book buddy that is your friend, most likely they would be. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. So,
all right.
That's what I wanted to tell you.
And
thank you. Thank you for letting me.
And thank you. Yes. And we in future episodes we can talk about other books that we swapped. There was the Ivan Doig story.
Is his name Doig? Is Ivan Doig?
Doig, Doig.
Yeah. The Bartender's Tale.
The Bartender's Tale. That's it. Yeah, that was not. I think I gave you that one.
You did give me that one.
I liked it.
Yep.
And I liked it so much, I bought another one of his books. I gave it to you because the print was so small. I thought, shit, I'm never going to read this.
Yeah, the second book had real small print. But it doesn't matter. That's the point of the story, is that it's not so much the book review, is you have somebody to review the book with.
Yep.
And that's what this program is about, in my view. Coffee, talking,
and
stories.
Buddies. All right.
And buddies. That's right.
Speaking of buddies.
Oh, you have our buddy.
I just reminded me of
segue.
something. I've got another buddy story I'd like to tell.
All right. This is new to me. Folks. I don't know this story.
It's pretty new. You probably don't know all the details of this, actually.
Okay.
But this involves the same character who blew his car up a couple episodes ago, where he was in 100.
What's his name? Huh?
What's his name? He was 105 in second gear and forgetting to shift, and the engine blew up. Anyway, so
names have been changed to protect the innocent.
He's guilty. I won't use his real name. Let's call him Gene.
All right.
Okay,
let's call him Gene.
So he called me up the other day and said, I listened to the podcast. He said, "Oh, that was great." He said, "Such a memory. That was funny." He said, "You had it. You had it right there." Yep.
Yeah, he's still alive.
He's still alive. And we got to talking, and he kind of gave me permission to tell another story about him, about the two of us, a buddy story.
Okay.
So this is so we're in high school. We're at least 16 because we're driving. And this might have been actually before he bought the car that he blew up. So it's summer. We're young guys in a small town.
I was there. I was in the same time zone with you.
Yeah, you were there.
The same town.
So
time zone,
we're always broke.
Yeah.
Always broke. We'd like to. like to be able to do more things, take girls out on dates, but we're broke half the time. But we got around a little bit, and Gene and I were dating a couple girls. I'll call the girl he was dating Mary Jones. Okay?
Mary Jones.
Mary Jones, not her real name.
Did he have a car? We had transport?
Well, he was borrowing his mom's car.
Oh, okay.
From time to time, and of course I was borrowing my dad's car from time to time. So we're dating these two girls, and I guess the one saying, "Boy, it'd be nice to do something real on a date besides drive around." Yeah. So he said, "Well, yeah, we're trying to find some work so we can make
You're
some money."
struggling to tell this story.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, should I start over? So anyway, so she comes next time we see her. She says, "Listen," she said, and she lived on a farm,
Mm-hmm.
and she says, "My dad manages another farm for a lawyer." She says it's a gentleman farm. He's a lawyer in Pittsburgh. He bought this property, and he's turning it into a horse farm to keep his, he has trotters.
Mm.
And so she said he needs a couple guys to help him do some work, to bring the hay in, and they had to actually build a fence and some other things. And
It's something you would do, right? I mean,
and
it
he's
sounds like
thinking,
an adventure.
"Oh yeah," he says, "We're in." He says, "Dave, are you in?" "Yeah, I'm in." Now you got to remember, Gene's he's trying his best to become romantic with Mary Jones.
Impress
okay?
this girl.
He's
Okay.
never gotten past second base. Okay, and second base is okay. It's
Yeah, I understand.
you got.
I was there.
So yeah, you
in
were
those
there.
days. Yeah, I grew up with it. Okay.
So he couldn't get past second base, and he really wanted to score a run, but things weren't happening.
Yep.
So he thought, okay, we'll get with some money.
All got picked off the bag, huh?
Yep. So anyway, so we show up for work. So the farm's on a hill. It's Western Pennsylvania. It's all hill. There's no
Right.
flat. There's a little bit of flat in the bottom. That's where the the racetrack's going to be. So he's got a tractor and he's got a big flatbed.
Yeah, typical farm tractor.
Yeah. So he has already baled the hay. So all the bales are sitting out on the field. All right.
I mean, can I stop you right there? Those people who don't know what that implies, when the bales are all baled, laying in a row, and the tractor's empty,
Yeah, exactly.
that means you got to pick them puppies up
You got to go up the hill,
and throw them on the back of this
load
bed.
them on.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. A lot of work. So go ahead.
And the other sad thing is, he actually baled them a little bit early, so they were a little bit greener than they could have been.
Heavier, yeah.
So they were 90 to 110
So
pounds.
let me ask you a question. When you guys got there, who drove? Did Gene drive?
Well, we this was like 7 or 8 days that we did this.
No, but
job.
how did you get there to the
Yeah, Gene would pick me up in the morning and
drive you? So when you got there on the first day and you saw this, it didn't dawn on you just how much work this was.
No idea. We thought this was like going to be just a regular kid's job.
Just pick them up,
Yeah.
throw them on the tractor.
So he gets us on the back of the tractor, goes up the hill, and he says, "Okay, you guys got to pick them up and you got to stack them here." So oh man, these things are heavy. And then after, a couple hours, mid-morning, he stops and he says, "Okay, I got other stuff to do. You guys also have to drive the tractor."
Oh,
Okay, so we're.
I never thought either one of you knew how to drive a tractor.
Of course not. Oh, well, no. Well, we had to learn quick. So we worked our buns off. I mean, it was hot, and so you load the wagon up, you take the wagon down the bottom of the hill, you unload the bales of hay in the barn. You
Handle them 4 times.
You do it again.
Yeah.
Okay. So we finally got that done after a couple days. This was hard work. These were long days. He said, "Okay, now we're going to build a fence for around the racetrack." And these were big.
Like 4x4s or 6x6s or something.
Oh, they were huge ties that we had to drag them all into position. He had the fence marked out, and so we're picking all these up and just dragging them, and we're just dying.
In today's world, they would be using tractors, backhoes,
Right.
and bobcats or whatever. Okay, so 2 young boys are trying to.
Okay, so a week later, we've killed ourselves. We're used up, and He says, okay, thanks, Gene. You know, you guys did a nice job. He handed him a check in an envelope, and he said, split this with your partner. And so Gene thanked Mr. Jones, and he just folded it up and put it in his pocket. And he says, okay, let's go, Dave. Well, actually, let me take that back. He looked at the check.
This was the big payday, right?
This was the payday. He looked at the check and he didn't say anything. He just folded it up and put it in his pocket. So we're driving home and say, Gene, how much did we get paid? How much did we get paid? And he just broke out laughing. He started laughing, just uncontrollable laughter. And he pulled the check out of his pocket and gave it to me. The total check for a week's worth of death work was $28. Split this with your partner. I got $14. I said, it was so obvious that he'd run one on us. So we couldn't even be mad. We just laughed like crazy. And I said, well, Gene, you finally got fucked by one of the Joneses, just not the one you wanted. True story.
You know, that's an interesting story in that when you see the kind of labor you could put in to, for so little bucks, clearly that was a big impression on both your lives because both of you went on to live very productive lives after that. Never did you have to make a living by throwing bales of hay, neither one of you.
Yeah. Ask them how much it cost beforehand.
That's right. That's it. You say, I'm going to learn, get an education.
Another lesson in life, honest. It really was. And we just to this day, we just tell that story and laugh about it.
And this Gene fellow, I would say he's a pretty good old friend too, isn't he?
He's one of the good guys. Absolutely.
He's one of the good guys. That's a great story, Dave.
So thank you. So our next segment is the Culture Club with the K, and this is something that I've been promising to do, and a couple listeners have written in and said, well, listen, you said you were going to talk about Miss Neff, your teacher, Miss Neff, and we still listen. We don't hear any Miss Neff story.
Okay, you're saying Miss Neff.
Miss Neff, yes. This was our teacher.
Never married.
So here it is. This is about Miss Neff, my favorite teacher. Not yours necessarily. I understand you have a favorite. Not necessarily
mine.
You may have a favorite. It's different, but.
I was there. I was there at
the
same time with you. I knew the lady.
Yeah. So I started writing a little story about Miss Neff, just kind of an essay, not for publication anywhere, just to remind myself. And I sent my kind of my rough draft to some classmates. I think you included.
Yeah,
but you said I don't remember her.
No, I definitely remember her.
Yeah. And I got some amazing feedback from the classmates. Some of their feedback was so similar to mine. We all had the same teacher.
And you're going to read that?
Well, I'm just going to read bits and pieces of it because it's several pages long. So just excerpts. Here goes. It says, Miss Neff taught our high school English classes, and in our senior year taught us a new course for college prep students called Introduction to Research. More than anyone else, Miss Neff taught me to write. She made it clear that she got better at writing by writing. Every week we had our in-class writing assignments, our take-home writing assignments, and our editing and re-editing of last week's assignments. She read every piece, and she dinged me for spelling, punctuation, and grammar. Did I successfully make my point? Should I move this sentence somewhere else? Is my logic sound? Do I mean this or that? Can I make the description less flowery, more forceful? Revise, David. Revise. So she's really made me a better writer. Full disclosure: in college, I majored in engineering, but I got A's in every single humanities class, which a lot of writing involved in every one of those classes. And
you still.
And honestly, I didn't do nearly that well in my engineering courses. So.
But you still write.
But I still write.
Yeah, that's why I say I gave you that book because of the way it was written.
Yeah. In our senior year, we had a senior research course, And that involved going to the main branch of the Carnegie Library in Oakland.
Yeah.
Remember that?
That was in Pittsburgh, isn't it?
That was in Pittsburgh. So we all had research topics. So we went to the library periodically in Pittsburgh to use their card catalog. This was the good old days. There was no computer. And we did our research, looked up our references, and wrote our research project.
How many was in that group?
Oh,
6?
6 or 8, something like that.
Yeah.
So she arranged for the jailbreaks for us to get us a day out of school to drive into Pittsburgh.
She went the extra mile.
She really did. And, this would have been a great opportunity to blow off a day, but nobody was going to let Miss Neff down. And I wrote that, and 2 or 3 other people wrote back the same thing. They said, boy, we could have really, had a fun time, but no. Miss Neff trusts us.
Me and what's his name weren't in on that.
I know. Yeah. You were with the
for
bad
the obvious
kids.
reasons.
You were with the bad kids.
Yeah.
So she was teaching us more than writing. She was teaching us more than research. She was teaching us trust and independence. Let me mention a couple other things that a couple of the other students said. This is from one of the girls in the class. She said she also sponsored the discussion club, which included a trip into Pittsburgh during sophomore year to see Forrest Tucker and the Music Man.
And guess who was there?
Guess who was there?
Guess who was there to see Forrest Tucker and the Music Man?
Were you there? Did you go to that?
I was there.
You were there. You were in discussion club.
I was there.
I was not. See, I didn't make the cut for
weren't.
that. For some reason, I was not in that.
It was me and 5 girls.
Ah, okay. She said it was the first live play that I had ever seen. We sat in the last rows of the balcony, and I was enthralled.
Yep.
When I told her how much I loved it, she invited me to come into Pittsburgh with her to see other plays. We would take the bus in and have lunch at the thrift drugstore across the street from Kaufman's. They had a sandwich and Coke for 35 cents. And she goes on, she talks about...
I think I know that girl.
You do know her.
I do know that girl. I think I went to that play because we had trouble right there in River City.
Okay. And she talked about how Miss Neff influencing her career, and she ended up doing literature and speech in college. And anyway.
And I became an actor.
You became... And you're still acting, yeah? This is one of the guys in our class said, I remember she had us reading real literature. 2 books that come to mind are A Tale of Two Cities and The Winter of Our Discontent. And then he goes on and talks about the research papers and the trips to the library. And he says, I think that she was teaching us how to learn, and she did an excellent job of that. Another girl in the class said, I thought she was wonderful. She was tough, which I needed, willing to help you, that I also needed, and she was a great woman. She was a personal friend to my Uncle Ralph, and when he was going through his final moments, she was right beside me in the hospital. That was pretty touching. Another fellow he was our class president, and he said Miss Neff was my favorite teacher for several reasons. I always felt that she respected me and I her. He said, I can't recall her ever talking down to me or patronizing me, which is something other teachers seem to do regularly. I felt like she was an advisor to me as class president. I tried not to pester her with trivial issues, and when I brought something to her, she always gave wise counsel. Not the answer, but a hint in the right direction or something more to consider. I felt she trusted her students, and she was willing to let us do risky things, to be responsible enough and keep ourselves out of trouble. And he said, and another line further down, he says, what I've probably gotten the most out of over the years is how to write well. So there it is again.
Actually, she treated everybody well.
She did.
And the people that expressed an interest in more heavier reading or more writing, she spent time with them. And I got to say, all those people did go on to have successful careers and lives, if you think back of who was involved there. So, but I got to tell you, even me and what's his name, she treated us well too. You know what I mean? She gave everybody equal attention, even though we weren't writers.
Yeah, you know something else she did.
Or spellers.
Yeah, especially spellers. In that introduction to research class, she would get a lot of textbooks. Being a teacher, she'd get from the different publishers. So she had like a textbook on Asian history and European history and history of Africa, stuff like that. So she would grab a book. She'd give each one of us a book. She said, "Here, read this book. Find something you find interesting in this book. Write it up, and then make a presentation to the class about it." And it was just, there was not a specific assignment. It's like, you figure it out. You figure it out. You start with a blank slate here. Tell us something we need to know. So and that's.
Well, like I said, I was there. I was there at the same time, and I'll give her all the credit. She was kind to everybody, and I would think she made every individual feel special, regardless of what level of intellectual capability you had.
So I think I just want to touch on a couple more here. This is from another girl in the class, Susan. She reiterates some of the things and going to see Camelot and plays with her, and what a great time that was. And she says, I also remember her walking everywhere. Do you remember that?
She did
walked. She
miles.
She lived up the hill a couple miles from school.
Yeah, she walked all the time.
She always walked. And I remember people would stop and ask her. She said, nope, I like to walk.
Yeah, and this was in the 60s.
Yeah.
Never known her to have a car. She might have had one. I just never saw it.
No, I don't think she did. I don't think she had a car. So another girl in the class talks about her project in the class was she was doing a study of Willa Cather and her novel My Antonia in particularly. She talked about the trips to Pittsburgh. She said that really stuck with me, and later I made a special point to visit Willa Cather's childhood home, which had been turned into a museum. 23 years after doing the research project, Miss Neff's thoughtful assignment enriched my experience in Red Cloud. Well, I'll just wrap it up. Actually, she died she died in 1991 at age 86. So she had a full life. And I just hope there are some other Miss Neffs out there. And I'm sure there are. I'm sure everybody's got Miss Neff stories. If you listeners have a favorite teacher you'd like to get some airtime for, send us a letter to bucks2old@gmail.com. And if the spelling's good, if the spelling's better than Dell's, we'll put it on the air.
Well, I was there that time, and there was a tiny little town with a dedicated somebody who made a difference in somebody's life.
Yep.
In fact, several people's lives.
Yep.
And I'm sure that happens many, many times over in the good old USA. But we were fortunate enough.
Fortunate to be a part of that. Probably everybody's got a Miss Neff in their life, that somebody that really pointed them in the right direction
when they were malleable.
At a critical juncture. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I suppose one of my favorite teachers was probably a man by the name of Cochenour.
Mr. Cochenour.
Yeah, Mr. Cochenour.
Oh,
yeah, he also taught algebra, and I was in his class, and I was one of his basketball players.
As was I. Yeah.
That's right. And when I finally, after several months, discovered what A squared plus B squared equals C squared could mean anything. He patted me on the head and say, "You got a C minus. Just keep playing ball.
Just keep showing up for practice." Oh yeah, he was a great teacher.
He was a great
too.
guy.
I had him for four.
These are all good mentors.
4 years of math. I had him out 2 years of algebra and plane geometry and trig and kind of intro to calculus kind of thing.
No, see, that's where you left me there. But still, those guys, they were great influences.
He was a great role model.
Yeah, great role model. So I can't complain. I mean, those are teenage years are always trying, and we had the benefit of good teachers in a small class, in a small situation, that every one of us who's listening who even knew that period, and maybe they went through it themselves, could look back on it fondly as being a real lucky situation. So,
absolutely, I have gone on a bit about this, so we're getting So we're going to have to
We'll get some letters.
do some editing here. Maybe we'll just slip down the letters here.
Well, you can. What's up? You got anything on?
I got 2 letters. Maybe I'll just read one of them here. We were going to do. I know you had said something about words of wisdom. Maybe we'll save that for the next podcast.
Oh, sure.
Let me read.
Tempus fugit.
There you go. Yeah. I'm just going to read. I have 2 letters here. I'm going to read. I'll read one of them. We'll save one for the next episode.
All right.
Now this is an interesting name. This guy's name is Superman Dupree.
Superman
Dupree. I'm guessing that Superman's not his real first name. And he lives in Jeannette, Pennsylvania. He says, I was thinking about what you said about the tire wearing thin. This is the
relative to your flat tire.
The flat tire story, yeah. So he said, I did a direct comparison on the same type of tire. He's going to get technical on us here now. He says the flat spot on the rear tire was around 3/8 to 7/16 of an inch wide. I mic'd the thickness of the new tire at 0.135 inches. So the worn out tire average is 0.078 inches. He says that's all the rubber you have between life and death.
So he did the mathematics on the thickness of what's separating you from
a new tire and an old tire. Yeah, and this is what's.
So it's not that much.
Not that much, but I think the interesting thing here, and the advice that I would give back to Superman Dupree from Jeannette is, and Mr. Cochenour would second this. Actually, now that I think about it, says really, Superman, you should know better than to mix decimals and fractions in the same measurement system. So, but I do appreciate your scientific undertaking here. Just keep the fractions and the decimals separate in future, Superman.
Do you have time for a little bike story?
For you, we could have a bike story.
Okay, one quick bike story. There was a case where, in my travels, there was a very, very, very steep, hill. There was the people traveled on bikes there, but they had sort of an old British style bike. And they didn't have that Bendix kind of a brake system on it. There was a clamping bike. The squeeze.
A caliper brake.
Yeah, caliper
Grab
brakes.
the rim.
Yeah, they grabbed the rim,
rather
right.
than expand.
But they weren't very
internal hub.
They weren't very good. Obviously, they weren't very good. And the story goes that he got on the hill, and then he started moving and faster and faster and faster. And I don't think anybody's going to think this is funny. But he's screaming.
I promise I'll laugh regardless.
Well, he's screaming. He's screaming. If anybody will help me, I'll give them a cow.
Is that the punchline? Or
no? He said. He said. I'll give you a cow if you can stop this.
If you can stop this.
He would not. And he didn't make it.
He didn't make it.
Yeah. He did. And when they told me that story, I didn't think it was funny either, but I could picture that.
Actually, it's amazing because the other letter from afar is it has to do with cows.
Oh, really?
No joke.
Good segue.
Good segue. But I'm going to save this one. But we'll remind people of your bad.
Well,
the bicycling cow
You'd have
story.
to picture something. That's all he could think of. He said, "I'll give you a cow." I was overseas when
Don't
that
have a
happened.
cow, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Is it time to go?
I think, unbelievably, time has just blown by again. So I will say, I'm
Dale?
Dave. Wait, now you can say you're Dale.
I'm Dale.
Okay, and I'm still Dave. And we are
The
Two Old Bucks.